Do you feel like guilt and shame are your default modes? Hi, I'm Maura. I'm an actor and dopamine accountability coach at Momentum University, and I'm here to help you with that. First and foremost, if you'd like a free download about the basics of dopamine, the thing that makes your brain go, yay, let's do this, there's a link down below. All right, first, let's define shame and guilt. I get this comment all the time with my clients, and I just want to break it down in little nuggies so that when we come back to address it, you can use your big, beautiful brain to explain it to your kid, to your inner child, or whomever. All right, let's go. Shame. This is how I define shame. Shame is feeling bad for who I am. And guilt is feeling bad for what I do. Feeling constant shame and constant guilt is feeling bad about who you are and what you do constantly. If you constantly feel that way, you do actions that support that feeling. And it's like this never-ending cycle of feeling bad and doing bad and feeling shame over and over. So how do we not shame spiral? Especially with ADHD, I'm more susceptible to being good at feeling bad about who I am and what I do. A little side note about shame and guilt is that on the scale of consciousness, where 1,000 is enlightenment, shame and guilt are down here. And it's fear, anger, apathy, all that. There's a shift in life, in resonance, in vibration, in frequency above a 200. And 200 is the frequency of courage. Okay. Now, if I am constantly thinking, feeling, doing shame and guilt, what am I in resonance with? What am I going to be attracting? Because you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So if I am feeling, thinking shame and guilt, subconsciously, consciously, whatever, I'm going to resonate with situations and people that match this shame and guilt frequency. Okay. Now, at Momentum University, we train our clients to look at what they're doing as they're doing it. That is what mindfulness is. According to Dr. Lembke, author of Dopamine Nation, mindfulness is the ability of the brain to observe what it's doing as it's doing it. We teach our clients to observe if they are doing a level 1, level 2, or a level 3. Level 1 is instant dopamine activity that lowers your dopamine baseline. 2 is neutral on your dopamine baseline. Level 3 is more effort and raises your dopamine baseline. So typically, when we are doing level 1s in excess, we feel shame and guilt about it. When we think shame and guilt, we act shame and guilt. Our behaviors are shame and guilt, and we do more of that, and that lowers our dopamine baseline. So at Momentum University, what we do with our clients is increase their mindfulness and train them to lower their time and energy that they're putting into level 1s and putting it into level 3s. So their energy goes into activities that raises their dopamine baseline naturally. What a concept. Raising your dopamine naturally. When we think certain thoughts, it makes us feel a feeling, and that feeling informs the action that we take. When we do that over and over, reinforce neural circuitry, and what we call a habit can be weakened or strengthened. A neural pathway can be weakened or strengthened. My experience with guilt and shame, let's get vulnerable here. I did not know that I was operating from guilt and shame until I reflected back that a lot of the cultural conditioning and familial conditioning I had, it was a kind of emotional manipulation where my experience with shame and guilt, and the reason I did not recognize what it was because the way I was raised, it was through guilting and shaming. The verbiage was making me feel bad about who I am, making me feel bad about what I do. For example, why can't you be like your sister? Why can't you be like your brother? These kids never gave me this much issue. Why are you so combative? So I was constantly compared. At that time, when I heard these phrases, what I made it mean was who I am was not good. And what I do is never good enough. I'm never good enough. 98, not good enough. Not 100. So I constantly felt shame and guilt and felt unlovable. I learned that love was conditional and it became my norm. So even on the outside, straight A student, excellent attendance, checked all the boxes, good in class, good helper. If I was not the teacher's pet, there's something inside me that died. I was on that level, and my parents praised me for that. But the underlying current was I have to do all these things and perform in this way so that I could be lovable. And it got me into relationships that now I understand why I was in those relationships, because I was in resonance with them. And the craziest thing that I was in resonance with was being in a cult church, because the constant guilting and shaming and never being enough was familiar. I didn't have a training on how to recognize a cult or a cult leader, so those documentaries are quite helpful. And it wasn't until working with my life coach that I understood that what I felt most of the time was shame and guilt. I felt bad about who I am, and I felt bad about what I do. So I ended up in a church that messaged to me that everything I do was not good enough. That's familiar from me growing up. No matter how many services I kept, no matter how much tithe I gave, no matter how much I performed, basically, my salvation wasn't guaranteed. I was familiar with that definition of love, that it was conditional, that it could be taken away if I didn't step up. I share this because as a part of emotional intelligence and emotional literacy that I hope to pass on to my son, that he recognizes his feelings and not judge them, but as a signal of whether or not something is in alignment with him. If somebody makes you feel bad about who you are, do we want to be around them? Why am I around them? Yeah, because we can't change this person. We can let them know, hey, what you said was disrespectful, and I don't like that. Next step is us not hanging around them. I bring this up to highlight the importance of emotional intelligence and emotional literacy that I hope to pass on to my son. When we are doing level ones, there is an emotion that we are avoiding, that we don't want to confront, and we should know what that emotion is instead of being on autopilot and doom scrolling for 4 hours or binging for 6 hours or snacking, emotionally eating. For me, I'm a foodie, so I get my dopamine hit from going to a restaurant and being served. Becoming more emotionally regulated, literate, intelligent will help us manage our actions, our behavior, our habits. And then we can pause and reflect on what we are doing with our time. Is it in alignment with where we're trying to go, with the big dreams we're trying to have, whatever our Super Bowl moment is? Once we reclaim our time and energy back and start channeling it in a productive way, work isn't hard. And getting a promotion, like my client Paola, if you want to get more control over your time and your energy, if you have low dopamine, whether you're self-diagnosed with ADHD or clinically diagnosed with ADHD, and maybe you're on medication, maybe you're not, maybe you want to wean off your medication, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever support looks like for you, you can fill out an application at momentumuniversity.online or click the link in the ebook. Go through the ebook. If it resonates, have a strategy call with me. I don't have any spots available in my calendar, so if you're not serious about taking control of your life, please don't book. You can also follow my journey here as an actor, as an artist, as a mom, as an entrepreneur. See what happens when you gain momentum in your life and raise your dopamine and work with your mind instead of against it. Thank you so much for watching. If this video inspires you to take action, please leave a comment down below what your intention is. When you actually execute it, come back and let me know. Because if you are not inspired to take action, I am just a distraction, and you do not need more of those. Right, friend? Besitos.